According to the Collins Dictionary, fate is a power that some people believe controls and decides everything that happens, in a way that cannot be prevented or changed. Take this afternoon. At 12:45, exactly 4 hours after he'd set out on his final round, Shane Lowry left the 80th green and started walking towards the recorder's hut. He had hoped for better at the PGA Championship, but had played well and was feeling reasonably chipper, apart from the news that Westmeath had beaten Dublin at Croke Park, which hurt him as badly as a triple bogey. As he reached the back of the clubhouse, there were 2 or maybe 3 players at the practice green getting ready to go out, and he broke stride, then veered right to embrace one of them. I thought it was unusual. This wasn't Paddy or Rory or Tommy Fleetwood or someone I'd ever seen with before. I asked him about it after he'd signed his card. "I noticed you gone over to Aaron Rai," I said. "Yes," he replied. "You like him?" "He's a nice lad, a great lad, very under the radar, unassuming. I just saw him there and I thought, he's gone out with a chance to win a major today, and I wanted to wish him the best." Now, Brian, the 108 PGA champion is a 31-year-old Englishman from Wolverhampton. His father is Indian, his mother is Kenyan. His wife Quirky is a pro golfer who plays on the Ladies European Tour. He is the first Englishman for 107 years to win the PGA Championship, and it's fair to say he's not a star.
No, he's not a star. Popular winner though. A lot of very popular winner.
Okay, that's interesting. Go on.
Because he's a humble guy, soft-spoken guy, and a guy that just seems an all-round nice guy,
Yeah.
And even McIlroy said it afterwards. Says, there won't be a person on property that is not happy to see Aaron Rai win. A lot of people out there to congratulate him afterwards. Just a generally good guy. He went down really well when he contended for the Irish Open up in Galgorm in 2020. Came very close to winning there. Just a very humble, down-to-earth, ordinary sort of a guy with a great talent and a great work ethic.
Is he wealthy? Are they wealthy?
No.
Are the family wealthy?
No, I don't think there was much money when he was growing up.
Great.
No.
So the common man?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Okay. Wolverhampton.
Okay, Wolverhampton, yes indeed. Now here's the thing that's always struck me about him, because he's been around a long time, like a pro since 2012. He's one of these guys you walk by a million times and you wouldn't think very much of him. But the thing that strikes me is the 2 gloves. He plays with 2 gloves. I wouldn't play with 2 gloves.
No, and iron covers on the irons.
And as I was walking around to this afternoon, obviously I was following Rory, but I had the radio commentary in my ear.
Yeah.
And they told it, I never understood that about the iron covers. So tell us about the iron covers.
Yeah, well, the 2 gloves thing was because playing in the cold, he just wore 2 gloves and it felt good, so he kept on doing it.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah, I think these are the iron covers and the 2 gloves. 2 big no-nos for the cool kids.
Oh, well, I'd be one of those. I can't play for nuts. But
and the iron covers, apparently, he just said, look, his dad bought him clubs when he was a kid, starting to play golf when he was young, and they cost like £900 or £1,000 for these Titleist irons. An absolute fortune, so the dad thought it might be a good idea to put covers on the irons, and he'd clean the irons every night with a little toothpick and baby oil or whatever it was, just to keep them in pristine. So he's kept on doing it. So he's continued with that tradition ever since, even though, he's.
How good is that?
I think that's
even though everybody thinks he's.
Yeah, everybody thinks he's nuts, but he's different, isn't he? He's different. He's somebody different, and he was such a deserving winner as well. I mean, he played phenomenally. He really did,
Now Shane was out, I mentioned Shane was out early this morning, and I had a chat with him after he came in, and I asked him at that stage, I said, have a look at the leaderboard, what do you think? And he said, well, it's anyone's, isn't it? Now, he'd had dinner, he'd had Padraig over for dinner the night before, and as Padraig was leaving, Shane looked at him and says, Padraig, a 63 tomorrow and you never know. And Shane says, I think we damn sure that's exactly what he was thinking. How did Padraig get on?
Yeah, and Padraig played really well. Padraig ended up shooting 69. Okay, he tied for 18th place on 1 under par. Brilliant result, 54 years of age. But he went out there thinking, he'd said the night before, look, I'd probably need a couple of shots light maybe after my 3rd round. He went out there thinking, and in my head I'm thinking, somebody's going to shoot 5, 6 under par, 8 under par. Could be me. I mean, it could be me, He went out and in his head he felt he was in contention. Now he birdied the 2nd hole and he didn't get anything. Nothing happened for him after that for a while. Bogeyed the 8th, and he made, you know, a bad bogey on the 9th, you know, after a great shot, and another bogey on the 13th. So it was kind of going a bit pear-shaped for him.
Yeah.
Holds a bunker shot on the 16th for an eagle, having berated himself for it in there in the first place.
Right.
And then he holds this bladed wedge from just off the green on the last. You know, so
Right.
he was very happy with himself
I was
because
going
he
to ask,
felt.
how was he when he came in?
Yeah, because he felt, you know, I really felt like I was in contention in my head, you know, and it's the best I've put it.
Right.
It's the best I've put it. You know, he was wondering, was he going to be strokes positive for putting?
Yeah.
You know, and I told him, yeah, you are. Okay, you're 53rd, but it was positive.
You didn't upset him today anyway.
I didn't upset him today.
Oh, great.
No,
That was something.
That's an achievement. And he said, yeah, it's the best I've put it for probably, you know, 15, 20 years.
Right.
You know, even though I'm not putting my best, if I can put reasonably well at this level, I can compete with these guys. So, you know, people are saying, oh, you must be looking forward to the Open. He's going, no, the Open, no. The US Open is next. I'm only thinking about that. So, you know, he was in great form.
He's playing in 3 majors this year.
Yeah.
He plays in the US Open Shinnecock
Yeah.
next month, and then obviously back to Birkdale where he won in 2008, number 2. Yeah, great. Well, that's something to look forward to. And also, worth remembering, he's the oldest player to play in all 4 rounds this week.
Yeah, fantastic performance.
And
Really,
his best finish since 2021. I mean, that is a great performance.
yeah, he shot 74 in the first round.
Yeah.
105th, like Rory.
Brian, our friends at the Fried Egg podcast put up a picture of Rory yesterday on Twitter in the wing mirror of a car, basically saying, look, this is the guy they're all going to be looking at, you know, tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was with him on the range before he went out. I had a chat with Sean O'Flaherty, his manager, and I was kind of fishing as to what they were thinking. And the numbers he was thinking was, he said, if he gets to, he started at what he started? 4, 3 under?
3 under par, yeah.
He started at 3 under par. It was at 3 under par going out. He said if he gets to 6 under, he would have an outside chance.
Yeah.
If he got to 8 under, he would win. And if he got to 7 under, the worst case scenario would be a playoff. Now, how did it go? He finished on 4.
He finished at 4 under, yeah.
Yeah.
He shot 69.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
shot 69.
And he ended up finishing 5 behind. That's how well Rai played.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, let's take it from the top. So, he birdied the second.
He birdied the second,
So,
yeah.
good start.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't hit many fairways. This is the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't able to hit the ball close to the hole.
Yeah.
He had a couple of chances which he missed. He made 10 pars in a row. Meanwhile, you know, Rai is going birdie bogey. Suddenly makes a move around the turn. Rory's making pars, falling further behind. And when he came off afterwards and he said, look, I'm only going to root 3 holes this week.
I didn't get a sense.
He wasn't putting pressure.
I didn't get a sense walking around with him that he felt he was falling behind.
Yeah.
I thought that so he had a great chance on the 9th, the par 5 9th. Hit a great drive down there, hit the fairway, hit a 7-iron that came up short.
Yeah.
And then opted to put from the front of the green
3
that
putts.
ran by and didn't make it coming back.
Yeah.
And I felt that was important.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
another birdie on the front 9 would have.
Yeah, just to keep in touch, just to keep applying a little bit of pressure. Here I am, just behind, you know, in the wing mirror, as you said. Yeah, and that was the problem, you know, that he didn't play the par 5s well this week.
Yeah, and
He
the
was
other
level
one,
par.
the other one was the 13th. I remember so I watched
3
him
holes.
So he didn't hit a fairway then on the back nine
at all.
Yeah,
Not one.
so obviously 10, followed down 10, 11, 12, then the 13th, which is par 4, but it was drivable.
Yeah.
He hit the 3-wood way right.
Yeah.
Nearly got run over by one of the buggies as they were trying to clear the ropes.
Yeah.
And actually did well to get out there with it.
He ended up making a 5.
With a 5.
Yeah, he didn't get a second shot on the green.
It was ugly, that.
Yeah, he made a great birdie on the next,
And then he made a great birdie on the next, and you're thinking,
and then leaves a big long putt on the lip on the next, and you're thinking, you know what, let's see,
Yeah.
he needs to do something on the 16th. But the par 5s, he was level for the par 5s.
Yeah.
Rai was 6 under, so he needed to do something on the 16th.
Yeah.
Hit it in the rough, hit it in the bunker, you know, and it's game over really,
Yeah.
because, you know, Rai was just behind him and starting to put the foot down big time.
Yeah, no, I watched him again. I came off the 18th with him. He didn't do many interviews. He did a quick one for TV, and then he came over to Stevie Watson.
Yeah.
And I was there as well. A couple of us were standing there.
Yeah.
And you know, he seemed pretty happy.
Yeah, he said he was proud, you know,
Yeah.
that after shooting, I mean, this is another major where he's been in contention without really having the A game, the same as the Masters, where he was hitting it kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And the short game was brilliant. I mean, he did not drive the ball very well. He thought he maybe had cracked it after Thursday when he drove the ball so early and played really well on Friday.
Yeah.
But under the gun, when the pressure was on, he had a two-way miss going on. He wasn't able to hit the fairways, and top 10 without playing your very best. So I think he's buoyed by that, in these majors now. He has the patience to know just to hang around, and he was still hanging around, but he needed those two par fives and that 13th. He needed to make something on those holes, and didn't happen.
Now, how did it pan out then? How did Aaron Rai win? I mean, the early challenge you would have thought was Ram.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rai was, he was having a sort of an up and down round until he got to the 90. He made a 40-footer for an eagle. I think he made about a 10-footer for a par on the 10th.
A 40-foot for an eagle. 40-foot for an eagle.
And then he made a good putt for par on the 10th and birdied the 11th. And all of a sudden, he birdied the 13th, I think. So he was a couple clear, and he just started to move away.
Yeah.
Just started to move away. It was very impressive. Birdied 16, and then he comes to 17, and he's got a lead.
Okay, here's the question. So, obviously, it's pressure makes the difference here. Like Alex Smalley, the leader.
Yeah, Alex Smalley. Yeah.
So he went out overnight. He's leading by 2, and he'd never won before. And you're thinking, look, this fella's not going to sleep tonight. He's not going to be able to deal with this. The remarkable thing about Roy is how well he dealt with it, because this is uncharted territory for him as well.
Yeah.
Like he has won on the PGA Tour.
He has,
and has won before.
3 times in Europe.
But it's a big deal now to be.
Yeah. He hasn't been having a good season either.
Right,
he hasn't been playing in all the big events. I mean, he's playing in Myrtle Beach instead of down in Donald Trump's place in Doral and things like that. Hasn't been going great for him. But he's a class player. I mean, he beat Tommy Fleetwood in Abu Dhabi there in a playoff. I think it was a tournament Shane might have even won, what was it, the year before last.
Okay.
So he's a class operator, won the Scottish Open as well, so he's a top class player. There's so many of them though in that ilk, and it was going to be, somebody was going to come out of that pack today.
Have you ever spoken to him?
I have, yeah.
You have?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's just extremely polite, mannerly, and obliging. A gem.
Because in that interview, or in that moment, those few minutes when Morty spoke to him before he left, like he said, as you was talking to Stevie Watson, there won't be a more popular winner this year, right?
Yeah.
And then he kept on, and as he finished, then I said to him, "So what's to love about Roy?" And again, he said, I quote, "He's just such a good guy, hard worker, humble, just a gentleman, an absolute gentleman."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guys win sometimes.
Which is nice. Yeah. So we're feeling pretty good about Aaron Rai, are we?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I don't normally actually. I think you
like to see the superstars win, don't you? It makes you feel like all's right with the world.
Yeah.
That always happens, especially at places like the Masters. But if there was going to be a surprise winner this week, it's nice to see one of the good guys get one.
Yeah, the common man.
The common man.
Are you familiar with fanfare for the common man?
Fanfare for the common man? No, is that?
You don't know? Not that one that goes.
Oh yes. It sounds like a sports program theme music.
Yeah. Well, it was written in 1942 for the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra and was inspired by a speech by the then American Vice President Henry A. Wallace, in which Wallace proclaimed the dawning of the century of the common man. Now, do you know, Brian, who wrote Fanfare for the Common Man?
I do not.
And another Aaron, a guy called Aaron Copland. So is that fate?
There you go, must be.
Well, we're going to leave you there. And if our budget was big enough, we'd play you out with Fanfare of the Common Man. But you'll just have to take our word, that's what it sounds like. We'll see you next time.